Okay, good afternoon. Is that working? No. Hello? Hello? There it is, okay. Okay. Welcome, everybody, and I didn't have a chance to look outside, but they said it's not snowing. It stopped? Good, okay. Okay, we do have quite a number of things on the agenda, so we'd like to kind of get moving forward. Can I have a motion for the first motion, please?
I make a motion to waive the reading of the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Ms. Weinstein?
Yes.
Mr. Mayoko?
Yes.
Ms. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Lupo?
Yes.
Ms. Falcazatelli?
Yes.
Mr. Tazi?
Yes.
Ms. Baumeister?
Yes. Before I go on to the next motion,
I make a motion to,
excuse you. We just want to report Samantha's on leave for probably another couple of weeks. She's been on leave for the last 2 weeks and will be on for a couple of more weeks. So Michelle is filling in for her today, so you're going to have to bear with us a little bit, okay? Thank you. All right. Second?
I make a motion to approve the January 3rd, 2018 minutes.
Do I have a second?
I second.
What people second?
Ms. Weinstein?
Yes.
Mr. Mayoko?
Yes.
Ms. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Lupo?
Yes.
Ms. Falcazatelli?
Yes.
Mr. Tazi?
Yes.
Ms. Baumeister?
Yes. Number 3?
I make a motion to approve the revised specification 2_9, installation of new construction replacement windows.
Do I have a second?
Second. We're going to have a second first, right?
Okay. In discussion?
I second.
All right, she seconds. The spec at this time is a little unclear on the first-time installation of new construction windows in these models. So it does not say a couple of things, and I think this should be tabled at this time, go back to the architectural division.
Okay, any other discussion on this? Joe, do you have anything you want to say?
Well, the only thing I can add is, again, we thought this would be much simpler than it is, and I agree with you that we tried to shoehorn this change into a spec that was already pre-existing, and perhaps we can go back to the architectural committee to make it more clear on the AZAC situation.
Thank you. So,
Move to table.
Yeah, I think we have to
I
table
move
the
to
motion.
table.
Sandy moved to table.
I second. So that's tabled for now.
Technically not.
No, there's a consensus for tabling it.
Consensus.
Okay. As I was doing that, I was looking for Tom. Is Tom here?
No.
No.
I don't believe they had a January meeting, so
Okay.
that's probably
There
the
was no
reason.
meeting.
Right.
Okay, so we have no report from finance, no report from architecture, and no report from administration. So Beverly Craft, I think you're it.
The Resident Service Report for December 2017. Viston. For the month of November, the office was open for a total of 9 days with 17 participating volunteers. During this time, the volunteers received 3 shopping calls, 26 medical and dental calls, along with 1 blood work call within the village, for a total of 61 hours. Our volunteers took care of requested needs for 12 of our residents. Again, a thank you goes to Kathy Mayoko for writing the monthly article for our Leisure Village West News magazine. The Welcome Committee reports that there were 11 new owners and 3 re-renters. If you have not received a welcome call, please contact them, as they have a wealth of knowledge to impart to our new residents, as well as a refresher for our established residents. Helping Hands received 81 requests from our residents for minor repairs and household tasks. 4 of the coordinators evaluated these requests and dispersed them to 21 volunteers to be completed. Our volunteers do jobs such as changing smoke alarm batteries, fixing shower heads, and changing light bulbs. At times, depending on the number of requests, this can average out to about 1 task per week per volunteer. This is a free service for our residents, by our residents. The Recycling Club would like to remind everyone that a $200 door prize is being offered to residents for voting on the Master Deed referendum. When you return your ballot, you will automatically be entered into the door prize drawing. If a quorum is not received, which is 1,346 plus 1, equaling 1,347, regardless of how you vote, the votes cannot be counted. This means no door prize will be awarded. Please remember that there are no newspaper pickups until March. When you drop off your papers, please be sure to keep the trailer area neat. Do not leave animal waste, styrofoam, milk or juice containers. These are not recyclables. Your cooperation in this is appreciated. The print shop is staffed by our village resident volunteers. They offer printing services to our clubs and association. The print shop is located in Willow Hall. In December, they completed 8 club jobs, but no association jobs. Bus service offers a service to a number of our neighboring malls on a regular schedule. It also offers Sunday bus trips to some of our local restaurants, for which there is a minimal charge. You can pick up a schedule at the concierge in Willow Hall. Please be sure to wear your LVW resident badge when riding the bus. This month, there was a total of 347 riders. Glucose and blood pressure screenings both are done on the 4th Friday of every month at Willow Hall in the card room. The glucose screening is done by Monmouth Medical Center nurses from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. The blood pressure screening is done in Willow Hall card room by our volunteer LVW retired nurses from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Blood draws are another service offered to our residents. This is a service from the blood screening and is performed by Monmouth Medical Center Mobile Phlebotomy Unit. They are at Willow Hall every Tuesday in the card room from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. This service does require you to bring your prescription, your insurance card, and ID. It is requested that you make an appointment by calling 1-888-724-7123. However, walk-ins will be taken according to the availability. KLTV schedules is as follows. January 22nd, the first 50 years. Guest, Arlene and Vincent Finlay. Host, Florence Markowitz. January 29, Players Club presents Nobody Sleeps. February 8th, Girl Talk. Host, Charlotte Navatier, Janice Saylor, Murray Wilcox, and Mr. Maxwell. February 12th, Sticks. Guest, Priscilla Vidal. Host, Nancy Hurley. February 19th, KLVW Remembers When. Presents I've Got a Secret with Lucille Ball and Desi Ornez. And February 26th, Village Tales. Host, Mike Morizzo. The original broadcast of the show is aired on Channel 15 on Monday at 6 p.m. Rebroadcasts can be seen on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1, 6, and 7 p.m., as well as on www.lvwcreeper.com All shows are subject to change. They would also like to let you know if you would like to have an announcement broadcasted about your upcoming event or have a comment or suggestion. You may contact KLVW by email at klvw15@gmail.com or put a note in their mailbox. Movie for January is The Zookeeper's Wife, starring Jessica Chastain and John Hildenberg. It will be shown on January 21st at 2 p.m. This movie is R-rated. As a reminder, don't forget to watch The Creeper and check your monthly Leisure Village West News magazine for more information regarding the services that are provided to you by our generous volunteers. There's a wealth of information on events and trips offered by our clubs, groups, and recreation department. You will also find a number of informative articles on what's happening in and around our village for your reading pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. I guess because so many of the divisions didn't have December meetings, so that's why the other reports were not given. Joe, Community Manager report?
Yes, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to take two easy ones first. Parking. Last couple of days, I've heard about some complaints where residents or your guests are parking in such a fashion that people can't get out of their driveways, or they're parking in a double driveway too far over next to your neighbor's driveway. So please, just a little message out there to be mindful when you park, not to try not to block anyone's egress. Even if you're parking on the other side of the street, but it's behind someone's driveway, it does make it somewhat difficult for them to back out. So if you could make note of that and park, away from anyone else's driveway, that'd be great. Next, I have to let you know that the board has heard complaints about some of the errors in our Leisure Village West News magazine. They've asked me to put together a meeting with the publisher, our editor, Mary's crew, and we're going to do that more than likely on February 20th. It's open to a couple board members if you'd like to. So we're going to bring in the publisher and all the people that are involved with the building up of the news to make sure we can reduce any of the errors that have been happening and discuss why they happen and what we can do to fix that. So that'll be coming up for the board to discuss. Next, we're going to get into the other one, the snow. Jim and I would like to give you at least a little brief description of the snowstorm that we just had. We intend to have, the board has talked to us about certain situations that have happened, in particular the single entry units, the walkways, other situations that arise from such a significant snowstorm and blizzard. But I don't know if you want to chime in on it anytime, you can speak into it. But basically, it takes us approximately 24 hours to do per foot of snow that arrives. And during a blizzard, it's a little bit more difficult because some of the areas that we even start on, the main roads, trying to keep the main roads open, and then move on into the side roads, a lot of what we started to get covered up again. But our main focus is to get to the point when the snow eventually stops, to get to the point where all the roads are as open, as good as we can possibly get them open, and then move on to driveways. And that 24-hour period I'm talking about is that 24 hours it takes us to get the driveways done once the snow stops. So it might have started 12 hours before that, but really we're not starting in earnest until the snow stops so we can start getting that done. We did have contractors on this storm. We had 3 extra loaders working on it. Another contractor was in the works, but it didn't materialize. So we didn't have our fullest crews working on that. We also, when we start the snowstorms of that magnitude, we have to split our crews into 2 basically 12-hour shifts. So we don't have all manpower here at once, at any one time, until things start to come back into control, and then all the employees get back together at a later date where we're all working in unison on it. But typically, like I said, we start off with half of the crew at any one time.
If I can just add.
Yeah, please.
If I can add one item. When Joe mentions half of the crew, that doesn't mean we have vehicles or equipment sitting there idle. Every piece of equipment is full and in operation. So we do have enough on staff to keep every truck and every loader running, but we do split the crew, so when that 12-hour shift is up, a fresh guy can jump right in that vehicle or loader and keep going. We've gotten really good, in my opinion, on those 2 to 4 inch storms. We bang them out in about 12 hours. But when we get hit with these 16 to 18 inch storms, you run into some problems with the logistics of where you put the snow. We do always line up contractors, but in order to have a contractor at your beck and call, they want money up front, guaranteed snow removal, and we don't give that. They want a retainer. That's the word I was looking for. They want a retainer no matter if you get 2 inches of snow that winter or 100 inches, you're paying them $100,000. So we don't want to do that. This storm, we also called every one of our seasonal employees and got them back in to help us shovel some snow. The big issue, and again, Joe and I, we had a skull session with all the managers trying to get a better grip on how we can handle clearing the walkways. That seemed to be the big issue in this last storm. There are 3,000 walkways, pretty much, that we have to clear. So it's a lot, and after the guys are in a truck for 12 hours, you know, it's tough for them to be really motivated to move at the speed we'd like. But I had one more thought, and it ran away from me. But we do meet after every storm and see how we can improve, and we just thank everybody for their patience and understanding.
The only other thing I wanted to point out is that while Jim is doing this and his managers, we're also handling the other thing, because we don't just do snow removal. We take care of your houses for heating and air conditioning. We had several calls during the night on plumbing leaks, heating and air conditioning. So
Frozen pipes.
Frozen pipes. So it was a very cold and large storm. It was a blizzard. So a lot of things got covered over that we did earlier, had to go back and redo. We don't like these types of storms, so if you have anything you can do to stop that kind of stuff, we appreciate it. But we're doing the best we can on it. We're going to go back and look at this again and have a debriefing, basically, and say, what could we have done better? Where can we do better? How can we do better? So we promise you we're going to do that, and hopefully we don't get any more snow.
It was definitely not lack of effort on the employees. They worked, every person showed, everyone was willing to do their 12-hour shifts. We did have 6 people out during this last storm for various reasons. I don't need to go into personnel issues, but 6 of our 40 we draw from were out, and that was a big impact. But every vehicle does stay filled and operating 24 hours a day once the storm starts. We are usually in here an hour or two before the snow starts just to start making phone calls, and we're here well after it. There's always a manager on site. At least 2 of us are here 24 hours a day. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's good enough. Let's not talk about snow anymore. So let's go on to the thing I was saving for last, and that is Verizon, an update for that. Last week, at the end, it was Thursday of last week, we met with Verizon and Jay Fletcher Kramer and Sons. That's the subcontractor that's going to be doing the digging work. So we met with them in advance to, exchange business cards and everything, and go over the logistics of where they're going to put the dirt once they pull it out and all of that, and where they're going to put their equipment, where the guys are going to go to the bathroom, all that kind of stuff. But Just after that meeting, I got a call from Verizon, said, hey, Joe, I think we'd like to start next week. So is that all right with everybody here if we start next week? Yeah? All right, good, because the board has said we can do that. So we're going to start next week. They're going to start the phase where they're going to put the junction boxes in the ground, and then they're going to also put the conduit that connects each one of those junction boxes on or about next week sometime. There may be, this is what they really want you to be prepared for, there may be as many as 120 workers with shovels in their hands in any one area at one particular time, right around your unit, with shovels. They're not going to be using backhoes or anything like that. It's going to be with shovels. They're going to be starting in the Encore section. All right, sorry, boo for Willow section, but Encore, they're going to be starting up at that end, closest to the 37 gatehouse and working back. I already said they'll be digging by hand. The junction box they're going to put in the ground, it'll be one for every 2 units approximately. So where your building matches up with your neighbor's building, you'll probably get a box there out by the street. That box will be approximately 3 foot by 3 foot and by 3 foot deep. So they'll dig that hole and then they'll start, well, I'll go into that next. They'll dig that hole there. Then they'll take an underground pneumatic mole, we call it a bullet, I think they call it a bullet too. It hooks up to a compressor and actually chugs along sideways underground and pulls a piece of conduit from junction box to junction box. In most cases, this work will be on your garage side or street side of the house. All the holes that they dig that day will be filled that day. They won't leave anything exposed. It'll be filled that day, so you never have to worry about that. They will not start digging additional holes if they think they can't get it done. So if it starts getting late, they won't start another area because they don't want open holes or anything like that. Everything will be done. They will also, while they're doing this, have to locate the ONT, which is the optical network terminal, which is basically a little plastic box on your unit near the electric meter. So it's going to be done in that area. So they're going to have to cross your little sidewalk typically into your 5-foot area, slight disturbance there, and they'll mount the box there. That's as far as they will go during this phase of the build. They will make sure that they do not block any roadways, allowing for emergency egress. They will also have about 5 or 6 Mason-sized dump trucks. That's the type of dump trucks we have, the smaller ones. Right? They'll have 5 or 6 of those. They'll be used to relocate the dirt they dig out of your area. We're going to store that on site down at the maintenance shop. We may need some of that when they start pulling pedestals out down the line, or we could use it for fill in other cases. Every effort will be employed not to cut any roadways as much as possible. There may be some. Especially, they'll make every effort not in any areas that we've had paved in the last 4 years. There'll be extra curve. A lot of the conduit road crossings are already in the ground. If they're clean, they're going to use those. They will not start digging until after 8 o'clock in the morning. And we've agreed to go to Saturday. So Monday through Saturday, they will be working in here to get this job done. No work on Sundays. The work will end each day around 4:30. It'll go later if they're still doing this during when daylight saving time changes. But right now, it'll probably be before dark. They want you to know that this is going to be noisy at times. That little bullet that we talked about with the compressor running is the loudest part of this whole operation. They want you to know that there'll be noise. That noise will end before your dinner time typically. So they'll be out of your way. All the trucks will be out of your way. You can go out to dinner, all of that stuff. But it may be busy in the area during the workday. Gas, electric, phone, water, sewer, and cable TV lines will be marked out in advance, and I think I gave that away because you probably saw that already happening, right? The goal is to prevent any utility line cuts and service interruptions, but of course, you're doing work, this may happen. They may break something. There's a higher probability they're going to break the cable TV lines and the irrigation lines because they're being buried about the same level as those things. Sewer lines are much deeper, water lines are much deeper, so we shouldn't hit those in most cases. The association will assist on any irrigation repairs because you can't mark those out. There's no metal that goes along with it. We'll help them. We'll repair anything that needs to be repaired on that. TV breaks, when they cut a TV line, it's probably going to happen, they will repair it on the spot. So you'll get your TV right back again once they fix that. They will then notify Hotwire of the break so that they'll be all kept in the loop. Natural gas lines are least likely to be hit, but if it occurs, they put us on notice that they will call 911 first. They are mandated to do that. And then emergency services take over from there. Hopefully none of that happens. Well, this might have changed because we just had a discussion in the back room that said the association will use our One Call Now system to notify residents that what area they're going to be in, what work will be done. But the board has just authorized us to start use, or authorize Fletcher to use the Verizon door hanger, which will give you that information. We're going to put this on the Creeper as well and on our website, but it'll give you the information of what's going on. And more importantly, it'll give you a 888 number, a toll-free number for you to call Jay, Fletcher, and Kramer to report any problems. They want to be on top of it. So if something happens, you'll have the number to call them. And just so it goes out on the TV, it's going to be 1-888-240-5752. And that goes directly to the people that are digging the holes and putting the work in the ground. That's the number, and that's all I had to say about that, Jim.
The only thing, if I may add, the one call that goes out may be a little general because it's hard to pinpoint each address. Our one call is set up per condos, and some of the work being done is cross condo. So we may tell you within the next week or two we'll be in your area, and they may not, the first group they do Monday, they may not have these hung because we just told them today about it. So the first few may not get the door hanger on it, but you will see that in the future. And the one call, again, will be sort of a general, you'll see them in your area within the next week or two.
Before I get to that, before Elaine addresses you on that, we clarified, because I know he said something at the open meeting that they were going to build it. We thought they were going to build it from this end back, and he clarified it at a meeting that we had with them, that they had to design it from 70 back to 37, but they have to build it from 37 down to 70. So he clarified that. He has us all, this village, separated into 9 zones. They're going to start backwards, counting down from 9. So the first, anybody in the 9 section, which is going to be 9 and 8, really, they're approved, 9, 8, and 7. 9 and 8 are all the Thornbury area. So you guys are going to get the notification first that they're going to hit that area. That's all I wanted to add. I'll turn it back to you.
I think you have some questions.
Yeah, I just have a question. Carolyn Thompson, Thornberry Lane. We're going to have a lot of vehicles here. Are they all going to be marked Fletcher, Kramer, or Verizon?
Both, yes, correct. There will be also a Verizon Super there as well.
Okay, and they'll have identification, the
They
workers?
will, yes, they will all have identification.
Thank you.
Ann Niebergall, Cambridge Circle. One question, Joe. The amount of the vibration, once they start putting that conduit underground, is that going to be at a volume that would probably crack our windows?
No, it won't be that. You will feel it in your feet. You will feel it on the ground. You'll feel that typically, I know, if you're close enough anyway, you'll feel that. But it shouldn't do any vibrations. You shouldn't be noticeable other than what you feel on the ground.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's
Were
it.
you finished with that?
We're finished with the manager section. Oh, that's right. Jim had some things to add. I'm sorry.
Well, one is under new business, but I'll go to the other one. This time of year, we do all our resurfacing of all our pool equipment, send the pumps and motors out to get the bearings changed and get everything ready for the pool year. The Encore Spa, the generator, the
It's an aerator, basically.
yeah, the power blower pump, the one in the spa that pretty much does the bubbles, is still the original motor, pump and motor. It's no longer serviceable. We went to take it apart. It fell apart in our hands. So we do need to replace it. So we did go out to bid, and we went to 6 different vendors for a gas regenerator, Gen Air regenerative blower, model number R5325A-2. Pool Supply Unlimited came in at $1,329.67. Cole Palmer came in at $1,474.88. RG Group came in at $1,498.09. Gamut came in at $1,382.96. Neobites came in at $1,533.12. The low bid came in from FPP Outlet, $1,216.19. All these include taxes and shipping. We will be asking the board to vote on this at the next meeting to go with the low bid. FPP Outlet for $1,216.19. This expense will be charged to GL 3230 Capital Replacement Common Buildings. Thank you.
That'll appear on the next workshop so people that can see it before we do anything.
All right.
The
Recreation
I
report?
was going to say, recreation report, we don't have one, but Mary will be back tomorrow, so we hope that we'll get caught up to everything that she wants us to be caught up with by then.
Okay. Unfinished business on the amendment?
Unfinished business on the amendment. First thing I would like to talk about is the door prize, if we can. I put that in my next article, so you should see it in the next article. But to clarify it, because some people were confused, there will be only one $200 door prize, just one $200 door prize. The methodology that I said at the last meeting, I said you could take your ballot, you could write your address on it, or the election committee will write your address on it, and we'll put that in there, has been changed because of some problems with opening up the envelopes themselves, ragged edges like that. There's no need to tie the envelope to the actual ballot, so I don't know if you wanted to say anything further on it.
What the board decided today was, at the end, when we have every valid vote in, we will also have a list of all the addresses that submitted a valid vote. We will have address labels for every valid vote. If you mail your vote in and it's a valid vote, your address label will go on an index card, and that's what will be used to go into the raffle. So everyone will look exactly the same. It'll go into the raffle, and that's how they'll draw for the prize.
And then going on from there, we also talked about having a thermometer available so people could see how many votes came in, and we have to do that yet and publish that. But for now, we have the numbers of how many ballots were received.
And again, as of today, we don't have a number as far as how many yes and how many no votes, but as of yesterday, we did receive 1,014 envelopes, either by mail or dropped into the locked box at the association office. If for some reason you don't have a ballot, you can pick one up at the association office or give us a call and we'll drop one in the mail to you. And again, the door prize for all valid votes received, that will be drawn at the official meeting. So if you have not yet dropped off your ballot or mailed it in, please do so. Thank you.
I think we covered everything on that.
Okay.
Under new business?
Yeah.
I have one item. Right before winter set in, we discovered a large sinkhole on Huntington Drive in the grass area across from the butterfly garden. So we sent our guys out there and we dug it up, and we noticed that there's an 18-inch storm drain in that grass that had crushed and was washing out. So we called Earl Commercial Residential. They came out, took a look at it. They thought we would have to change the entire length of the storm drain. However, when they came in to unearth the whole thing, they found there was a break in the line where they
Seam,
could,
right?
a seam, thank you, in the line where they can change only portion of it. So the original estimate was for $7,900. After they came out and saw that they can replace only a portion of it, it was a $5,000 total cost of it. However, to back up, we had JCP&L in that area maybe a couple months before that, replacing a very large transformer. So we thought possibly their heavy equipment may have caused the damage in this pipe. So I filed a claim with JCP&L. Unfortunately, it was declined. They said they did not do the damage, but we did file a claim. So we did hire Earl to come in due to the dangerous situation of an open sinkhole. They came in, so I'm asking the board at our next meeting if we could memorialize the repair of the Huntington Drive storm drain from Earl Residential Commercial, LLC, at a cost of $5,000 charged to account 3290 Capital Replacement Fund, Road Paving / Buckingham Bridge.
Roads.
Excuse me,
You didn't get the latest one.
roads, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Road / Buckingham Bridge.
Okay, so that'll be on the agenda for the next meeting, right? Okay. All right, any other items from,
No other items on there, nope.
okay. We've talked a lot about in the past couple of meetings about where we are with the advisory committee. I just want to remind the chairs of the advisory committee that we are scheduled to meet on next Monday, that's the 22nd at 2 p.m. We have all the documents now finalized from the board, so we have the input from the board, so we'll bring all that up to date. In relationship to that, we also have talked a lot about the election committee and the new law. And what we've decided to do as of today, the election committee is an ad hoc committee of the election committee. Just 3 members of the election committee had looked at the new law, and they're going to be submitting their report. And we put a report together that kind of consolidates the issues that affect the election process in Leisure Village West. This all relates to what some of you have heard as the Radburn Law. And the Radburn Law was intended primarily to deal with communities that had not been following an open and fair election process, either in the form of a trustee election or in the form of a referendum. What we have decided to do is we've consolidated all the information. We'll include the ad hoc committee from the election committee. Joe has worked independently, I've worked independently, and the whole board is kind of coming together. We will review all of the materials and see what, if any, of our own bylaws need to be changed, and what, if any, relative to the process, whether it be on a referendum or on the election of trustees, needs to be clarified. Most of it needs clarification, not necessarily change in the bylaws, but perhaps a clearer definition, a simplification of some of the terminologies. We will be meeting, we hope, Joe is going to try and set up a meeting with, Karen had been the previous attorney that had been here on a number of occasions. She has left the firm. A replacement attorney will be, I guess, assigned to us. So we are going to have our first meeting with this attorney and basically ask this attorney to look very carefully at our bylaws, look at what we've written, look at what, if anything, we need to do. So at some point, we'll be able to come back to all of you with that information. A lot of work has gone into it. And certainly for this referendum, we're in compliance with the law. In fact, if anything, maybe we've done more than we have to do, but we wanted to make sure for the referendum. But we do want to make sure that everything for the trustee elections is totally completed in time. All of these things take time. It's not a matter of where we can all just sit and do one thing at a time. So we're hoping that by the end of March, that's our target date, I think, that by the end of March, the board will have completed its role relative to policies and be able to turn over to the election committee a final product. So that's where we are with that. Relative to committees in general, we have kind of worked on the board level on kind of assigning ad hoc committees as issues come up that is more productive if individuals, for example, on the election law, Sal Tazi and I worked on that. We worked as we met privately with Joe and with some of the other people on that. So we've set up a couple of other committees similar to that. And one of them has been in operation for a while now, which is the Technology Committee. So I've asked Chuck today to just give us just an overview of where they are with that particular committee.
Thank you, Elaine. We had a first meeting for the year, and again, reviewing the software that the association is using to do our day-to-day business. And just found out today that one of the companies, Polara, Carolyn will know this company, they're having a little year-end review. It looks like they've incorporated a lot of the changes that we've discussed. So I'm going to be sending out email to the members of that. We're going to have a meeting on the 25th of this month for a webinar with them. Also, we're going to be having a teleconference call with Verizon Commercial, which we're looking for recommendations from Verizon for network solutions. As you know, Verizon handles not only telephone via Fios, they have telecommunications, we have data that we have to transmit between the buildings. So we're looking for recommendations from Verizon, as they are going to be the builders of our infrastructure, on what their recommendations are, whether or not we need any additional cabling, any fiber optic to go from one building to another, and also how we can have a network solution. So one of the options with our telephone would be you call one number and you could be transferred, which that does not happen now. So that's what we have right now for the ad hoc technology committee.
Okay. Sorry. We'll have other reports as we kind of make our way through some of these smaller issues. The idea being that if a small group can meet and then come back to the board, and then the whole board is educated on a particular project, we can get the information out to you. The other thing we talked about this morning is something that kind of is hanging out there as a loose end, which is the controlled entry cards or the swipe cards. You know, we've been batting that around for a long time, and we really couldn't kind of come up with exactly what our position was as a board, so we could maybe then be presenting it outside. So what we decided to do, I think, I'm losing track, we talked about a lot of things. I think what we decided to do is put the controlled entry on the workshop agenda for the next meeting, so we have a chance to discuss it amongst ourselves, because there's different opinions. And then we will do it one more time if the decision is not to go forward with any kind of a pilot project, or if it's to go forward but with a different kind of a pilot project, we'll be able to tell you at that meeting, because we were a little bit ourselves kind of going around about, and we said we need to take more time ourselves to make sure we know what the question is that we have before everybody. I think that's all. Is there anybody that has anything that, anybody, did I cover everything? Okay. All right. I guess then we'll adjourn this portion of the meeting and open it up for resident comments.
First time. Bill Dunn, 996B Buckingham Drive. There's always room people to complain and everything, so this is not a complaint. What I would really like to do is thank Mr. Joe Schultz and his staff for the snowstorm and their one-call things. They really did a fantastic job. Secondly, Mr. Snyder and his staff, you know, we beat Manchester in cleanup. We beat Ocean County in cleanup. So, you know, you can always find room to complain. People can complain. People probably will complain. But I just want to say thank you for a job well done.
Thank you.
I'll second the job well done, but since you will be making calls again, as I heard regarding Verizon, I would ask that you be selective in your early morning calls because, I mean, I had 5 in a row, I and others had 5 in a row, and 2 days completely in a row were to the fact that my walkway would be cleared, which it never was, which that was understandable, and the 7 a.m. call was of importance for to let the people be aware of the icy roads. That's understandable. I would just ask that they be a little more selective in all their calls. And number 2, regarding your ad hoc committee, Madam President, on your election and with your law firm, I would say, would you please emphasize to the McGovern services that our bylaws should be followed, and it should not be totally of an opinion of the lawyer, but to really follow our bylaws for the answers, because they did fail. I believe, I would have even debated him, which openly one debate went 50-50, that their opinion has to equal our bylaws. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you care to identify yourself? You can sit down.
Hi, Ron Owens, 1145 8th Thornberry. We're the ones with all kinds of orange lines in front of our house and green lines and people spraying things. It's neat. Just a clarification. Joe, when you made your presentation, you said that if a certain number of results didn't come in, all bets were off with the $200 and everything. And then I heard that we had more than 1,000 response. I'm just trying to.
I didn't make that announcement. That came over there, that a certain amount didn't come in. We didn't make that announcement.
Oh, somebody did. I
Yeah,
thought.
the report, there was another report over there that was made. I know there was some misinformation that was put on the creeper. I've asked to be taken down, and I think it has been taken down. That bridge will cross when we get to it. As far as how we're going to handle it, whether the meeting's going to be continued or not.
Right. I think the question is the prize will only go out if we reach a quorum. That's what Joe Urcolino
That's
said.
what Joe Urcolino
Yeah.
said.
So in other words, we'd have to get enough ballots in to count, to actually
Right, but
count
so-
it as a, but if it didn't all arrive at that particular date, that date could be extended. Is that?
That's what I'm worried about, whether the board is, not worried, but the message didn't come from us, in other
Right,
words.
right.
We did not, we can't support that at this time.
No.
Okay, so the question remains, what is the quorum? What number?
Quorum is basically 1347.
Okay, and we have, 1,100 now? No. So
We're very close.
yeah, so it's moving very,
That's
very
just to
well.
have an official vote.
Right.
We'll need more than that to pass it.
Okay,
yes.
got
But
it.
that's, I think, what he's trying, what the $200 was supposed to encourage people to get out there and vote so we can make sure that we.
I think so, yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right, good. Okay, what can any of us as individuals or a group do to help get those votes in? I sent an email to the board, got the typical,
They got it.
Yeah.
automatic reply thanking me for my interest, and, I'm serious. I care
Right.
tremendously
All right,
about
the-
this.
Everybody can participate. Joe Ercolino came up with one idea. Everybody can participate by talking to their neighbors. If you're in clubs, talking to the club people. You know, you have to be careful. You have to allow people to make their own decisions about how they choose to vote. The important thing is that they vote.
That they vote.
So I would say that everybody can have a role there. Club chair people can, you know, make an announcement that please make sure you vote. And again, keep in mind, typically, I believe we get the largest number in initially in the first couple of days. And then there's, you know, it trails on from there. But, so we would like to hit, you know, 2,692 envelopes in here if we could, because it's a very important decision. Not so much whether you say yes or no, but that you say something. That's what's important.
Right.
So I think that's a message that every resident can talk to their other neighbors about. Clubs can talk about it. You know, people have said, well, why doesn't the board go around and speak more about this issue? It's a pretty straightforward issue. You know, it does say if we want to have a new expenditure for something that we have not planned for ahead of time, we would need to have approval to do that, and 55% is a pretty high percent to get people to agree to something. So that's basically what we're asking people to do. So I don't know that there's too much more that we can say about that.
And it's early yet, right?
And it is early. Yeah, we have until the 21st
of February.
So we do have until the
We-
21st to get that out.
We also had the snowstorms that people couldn't get to their mailboxes in time. So I think it'll be coming, I think we'll more than likely reach quorum probably by this week.
Okay. So
But do whatever you can.
Yeah, well, to that point, I enthusiastically would volunteer to do anything, because this is crucial, and I do want to echo the sentiments earlier. Good job on the snow.
Thank you.
Karen Hooyer, Buckingham Drive. I would like to know what happened on the last recycle day and why the recycle people didn't get to us.
Joe, the
Joe missed
recycling,
that, but I got it.
Okay.
They,
Weather was fine.
They were not able to finish 2 weeks ago because of the weather, they told us.
No,
Again,
there was no weather that day. We were here.
that's
We
what they
came from
told
here.
us. It's Manchester Township, not Leisure Village West, so we're at their mercy for pickup. And we did go back to them and beg them to come in the following Wednesday, but they said there's other communities that needed to be picked up, and they are in here today.
Oh, I thought they were our company. Okay.
They have 40 contracts with other municipalities that they had to do. They couldn't just take us out of order.
Yeah.
I thought it was our company, so I wanted you to complain to them. Okay.
Not ours, but we complained anyway.
It's the same company, but it's not our contract for doing recycle.
Walter Dailuski, 908A Stratford Court. At the last meeting, at the last two meetings, I brought up the question about the secret ballot on the referendum. Okay, apparently that is not going to happen. However, you mentioned something that gave me some other thoughts, that vote is, the way it's set up, okay, is that they can match the voter with his actual vote, okay, and that's why it's on the same ballot. You have the name of the person and you have that. And you said that if there was a protest, okay, that all those ballots could be revealed. So
no, I said that they
can
could
you
be.
clarify that?
Yeah, sure. One of the roles of the election committee, and that's part of what we're defining. We've always had it, but we haven't defined it in terms of the more technical inspector role type of thing. They are the ones that will actually see the name and be doing the count. That's what's happening right now. It is the election committee that is carrying out the count. Those ballots are kept under lock and key. No one is going to be able to go in to look at those ballots just because, like, I want to find out who voted for whatever. If the vote were challenged, and when you live in a condominium community and you have a voting by mail, That means that somebody has to be able to count the vote and validate the signature. Because as an owner, you would not want somebody coming in voting on this referendum if they weren't a valid voter. That's the nature of the community. The election committee keeps those ballots under lock and key. The administrative staff has to provide information relative to good standing and validity of the vote. They are under the agreement that they will not disclose that information unless there is a challenge. If
Well,
there
well,
is a
that's,
challenge.
that's the point that I'm making, okay? When it comes to a challenge,
Right.
okay, what are the grounds of the challenge, okay? And are we opening ourselves up to a situation where somebody challenges the vote and then can look at all 2,000 votes or 3,000 votes?
No, that's where you would end up then having a third arbitrator to come in. The election committee would be the ones that would verify, and it would be a third party. It wouldn't be the challenger that would be able to come in. They have a right, you have a right now to go in and know who are the people who are the, owners in this community. This is a shared ownership issue when you're talking about the common property. So you have the right to do that. Will most people do it? No, most people would not do that. But if it were challenged, and that's what the law does require, and then you would have to be able to say, yes, these were valid signatures because you're talking about changing a bylaw, you're talking about changing a master deed, that's a part ownership. Therefore, It'd be like a husband and wife that are co-owners. One can't make the decision without the other. You're dealing with a similar kind of situation. So you would have your election committee and probably meeting with a third party. That would all be set up, but depending on the nature of the election. A challenge might be simply to challenge the count. That could be, we want to know that it was counted. So the election committee would have to work that all out. But the election committee has the role of making sure that it's an accurate count.
No, I understand that, okay? What I'm afraid of is the challenge, okay? And
Well, I can't, you have to rewrite the law then. If as a resident in a condominium community wants to challenge whether or not somebody has the right to vote, that's a right they have. That's in the law.
Okay. All right.
Larry Kohler, Gramercy Lane. For clarification, how many yes votes are needed for the referendum to pass? What's the number?
Well, the referendum, because it involves the master deed, I just happen to have those numbers. At the master deed level, it would require 1,794 votes for it to pass the master deed level.
1,794 yes votes.
Yes votes, that's right.
Okay, thank you. The other thing I wanted to mention, the existing boxes, the cable boxes that are there now, are they eventually going to be removed?
Well, that's it. The phone boxes will be removed. The TV boxes, the board has yet to contemplate. We've got to talk about that down the road, whether or not that's going to be useful later on or not.
Because we're going to be inundated with boxes. If they're going to put new boxes in and there's existing boxes, and we got the Jersey Central Power and Light boxes, we're going to be like Potter's Field.
No, Verizon is putting everything below grade. So those you won't see anymore unless you're looking at the ground. They will be below grade or at grade. The the telephone pedestals that you see out there now, the small green ones in most cases, they will be at the end of this process, the last part of this phase, they will be removed. So actually we're going to be reducing the amount of boxes that you'll see out there.
Good.
The second level is the cable TV boxes. Since it won't be delivered to you over those, the board has to contemplate that down the road. Will that be reserved for 7 years down the road? Will that be an alternative for us to use that cable? So that's yet to be determined.
Thank you.
Walter Dailuski. This last week, I called myself, Joe, and Michelle Lompard, had a meeting concerning the wood trim project. It was kind of at my request, but we sat down and we did had about an hour discussion about the wood trim project. Okay, there were a lot of things that we disagree about. Okay, but on the plus side, okay, there's a lot of things that we also agree about, and it reminds me kind of a story. If you just bear with me for a moment, a guy goes into a garage and he wants his car fixed, and the guy that runs the garage comes out with a sign and he says, "Fast, good, or inexpensive." Okay. And he tells the guy, pick two, okay? If you want it fast and good, it's not going to be inexpensive, okay? And likewise for all the others, okay? And this is the same situation that we're in here, okay? Joe has got a plan for about 14 years, okay, for the project. Right at the present time, he's running behind on that, okay? And by my calculation, it seems like it may take 20 years, but that's beside the point, okay? Every year that this is delayed, okay, getting to a house means that it still has to go onto the painting schedule, okay? If you're in year 14, let's say if we actually get up to that pace, my house will have to be painted 3 times in the meantime. So while we're replacing the wood trim, okay, it's not getting done quick enough, okay, to cut down on the painting. And this is what we agreed at, okay? So I would ask the board and also the finance committee and Joe, the quicker that this is done, the better off everybody. But that is not going to be inexpensive, okay? It may require putting a second team on to work on this project to get it done in a reasonable amount of time, okay? To have 20-year projects, okay, God knows what could happen in the next 20 years, okay? That would not, you don't want this to drag on for 20 and 30 years. Meanwhile, what's happening, okay, on a lot of these houses is that the wood trim that is there is rotting, which is leading to other problems on the house. Recently, I went to one of the job sites. It was after I guess it was December 21st, okay, and I mentioned at the last meeting that there were 6 guys there.
Excuse me, Walter, but I really feel that we have listened now a lot on this issue. We happen to disagree on a couple of things. We have previously said that this could have never been even brought to anybody's attention, and as each house became in absolute need, then it would be done with the old way. We're in a position where a decision was made to move in a more methodical way to eventually get 2 houses. Management is looking at each situation, and if if there is a situation that is more critical than another, it's being dealt with. This is an issue of improving the product on the house. It's an issue that was looked at as this would be a better way to do this. Management and trustees have discussed this at great length. This has been presented by you many, many times. The fact of the matter is, we're well aware of the fact that everything could be done faster at a lot higher price. There are villages where something like this would have been done as an assessment to the homes. We have not operated that way in this village. We have operated by trying to maintain a maintenance level that is not increased exorbitantly, but to still plan for the future. Nothing in this project that I'm aware of says that there is such an urgency that seems to keep coming out. It seems more a matter of we have planned a methodical way of getting the product that would be better to replace these houses, the trims on these houses. There are other houses in the village that have trim issues that are different. They also have to be addressed. Yes, we have talked at great length about the fact that lawns could look, at a higher level. We could have golf, aspects to our lawns. There are things that cost money. We, as recently as this morning, talked about looking at the budget as we get to prepare it in the spring to make sure that if we have any way that we can save something in one place and move faster in another place, but there are a lot of projects in this village that require being looked at. So I think it's a little unfair, to be honest, that we keep going over the same thing. It's a management issue. It is a board issue. We're handling it as best we can. And it's not a situation that is so urgent that everything else has to be dropped and this has to be handled in its place.
Well, it's not a question of everything else being dropped. It's a question of if there was another crew, we could cut this from 14 years down to 7.
And that's going to cost money. And we did talk about that this morning. And we will evaluate that in April. And if we decide that we can afford to put that forward, we also have an increase because of, or for some people, it may be an increase relative to the television. There are a lot of issues that need to be factored in this year.
Well,
so we will look at all of them.
Okay. Well, if you cut it from 14 to 7 years, that's 7 years of not having painting done. Okay? So there's an immediate cost factor, okay, of saving
Yeah,
on
but
that, on that side.
listen, it's a little unfair to keep asking us to every level to keep going at this and at this. You have discussed, you have been this at finance divisions, I've been there with you, you have been now with Joe and Michelle, you've reported that yourself. I think we've answered it as much as we can answer it.
Yeah, well, all I can say then is I'm on the same page as Joe. Okay, it's up to the board to deal with this question, okay, because it's really,
Yes.
it's really going to hamper this village, okay, for a 14-year project.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Edward Silverstein, 1001A Thornbury Lane. I just have a couple questions. Elaine, you're talking about what the trustees do. They evaluate, they project what the expenses are going to be. If this is passed right now, what's the projection of when the time comes for your paying your maintenance? How much could it go up?
Okay.
Do you understand my question?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
You're saying if this referendum is passed, what effect would that have on your maintenance?
Yeah. And let me add something else.
Well, do you want me to answer that part first?
All right, answer that.
All right, at this point, it has absolutely no effect on your maintenance. Nothing will happen. The only thing that happens is, in this document, whenever you change a word in this document, you have to get the approval of the residents. So all that it's going to do is change the wording in this document to go from 80% to 55. That's all it's going to do. It's not going to accomplish anything else. When you would know is if something new were being projected and you wanted to go for something new, then that's when you would know, well, what are you talking about? Are you talking about a new building or whatever? The buildings we currently have, the facilities, the amenities we currently have are covered under our reserve program. So this would relate to anything new. That's basically what this says. We don't have anything on the agenda. There is nothing that's going to affect your maintenance relative to this vote.
Well, that's tough for me to swallow, and I'll tell you why. The way I saw something on the screen there about 2.5 months ago, 3 months ago, I saw the laundry list, the projection of what Joe and maybe the trustees feel they want to improve the image of the village here. And I agree with that somehow. But I do projections on my own. First of all, I read in the Asbury Park Press that they were going to put up 400 new houses in some land that they can develop it. That means more schools. You know what comes in. Right now they had a party here. They got a lot of adult communities. So they don't have those expenses. Nobody goes to school here at 80 years old, you know? So This is what I'm a little afraid of. Now, when I came in here, the maintenance was a little bit over 100. Every time they raise it $1, it's $2,692 for every dollar. You're telling me that when this goes into effect, the maintenance is going to go up like $8 a month. Is that what you're saying?
No, I said, no.
Then I
This-
misunderstood
All
you.
right, let's go one more time.
Go ahead.
This is only changing the document. It is not committing any money at all. If there were to be a capital improvement program, there would have to be money put into the capital improvement fund. We would have to know what that is. There is nothing on the agenda right now. The things that you've seen on that long-range plan really were programs and things that had to be done relative to maintaining what we already have. If we did talk about the pool to see if the pool could be replaced, there's money in the reserve funds for that, so that's not something that would have to be something out of this. We don't, at this point, that's a question still that we would have to get addressed. So we're dealing with an issue of saying, all that you're doing is saying, if in the future you were to have a building or an amenity that was new, that was going to have to be approved by the board, you're now saying instead of 80% saying yes, you're saying 55% say yes. That is when you would know what the financial implications of that are. And if 55% of the people say that's too much money, we can't do it, then we don't do it.
Let me give you an example.
All right, Mr. Silverstein. Faye?
Can I have a go at it?
Sure.
Mr. Silverstein, at this point, all this is doing is allowing for future consideration of capital improvements. It is not an authority to go spend money. What it will do is, if there were to be a capital improvement, if we wanted to replace the pool with some big fancy schmancy different kind of pool, we would have to come back to the residents and ask for them to vote on the issue. We would not be able, as a board, to say, okay, we're going to do it, and now you guys owe $20 more a month. That is not what this is about.
Well, I just want to make sure that what you're telling me is, I'm understanding it. When we were raised $8, well, at least I was, raised $8 last month, how did they project that? What did they need that for?
No.
That covered additional labor costs,
I understand.
operating costs.
Right.
That's all. That was simply operating expenses, an increase in insurance, et cetera. That was not a capital because of any kind of capital expenditures.
Okay, now I sort of got a little more of a grasp of it, because when I was in business, I project everything to see if I can make it, And if I couldn't make it,
Okay.
I'd have to cut something out.
All right.
We're going to let you vote on that.
Okay.
We are
Excuse
not
me.
going to make that decision by ourselves.
That is very nice of you. Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Meeting adjourned.